Hi, I'm Melvin Lloyd, Portfolio Manager at INN8 Invest, and today I'll give you a quick market overview for the month of December. We'll then look at the performance of the different market indices, and lastly, we'll look at the performance of the INN8 Invest portfolios and see how they performed relative to their respective benchmarks. So just starting with a quick market overview, December was yet another difficult month with prospects of a global recession weighing on investor sentiment. During the last FOMC meeting of 2022, the Fed raised interest rates by 50 basis points to a range of 4.25% to 4.5%, pushing interest rates to their highest levels since 2007. Fed Chair Jerome Powell also stated that further rate hikes will be appropriate in order to get inflation back to the target rate of 2% over time. We also saw policymakers from other economies following suit, with both the European Central Bank and the Bank of England raising interest rates by 50 basis points in December. In China, the government decided to abandon its zero COVID policy, but a sharp rise in the number of new cases dampened investor sentiment and short-term economic growth prospects. The Bank of Japan surprised markets in December after increasing the upper limit of its tolerance band on 10-year government bonds to 0.5% from 0.25%, and locally, President Cyril Ramaphosa survived the fallout from the Palo scandal and was re-elected as party leader of the ANC for a second term. Just looking at the different market indices, and this is up until the end of December, and I'm specifically going to focus on the blue bars, which are the 1 month returns. And one can see here SAILB is producing healthy returns for the month of 2.6%. SA Property also a decent return of 1.1%. And then global bonds, SA Cash, and global cash all producing a return of between 0.5 and 0.6%. But then looking at your other growth assets like global property, SA equity, and global equity, they struggled during the month of December and all produced a negative return. If one looks at the performance of the INN8 Invest portfolios, and specifically looking at the 1 month figures now, so it's good to see that the majority of these portfolios produced a return in line with that of their respective benchmarks, with only the high growth portfolio and the flexible growth portfolio marginally underperforming, and that's given the performance of risk assets during the month of December. If one however looks at it over a longer, more meaningful period, like the 1 year period, one can see that all these portfolios have comfortably outperformed their respective benchmarks. If one then just looks at the notable performers during the month of December, starting with the Granite Multi-Income Fund, that particular fund produced a return of 0.8% for the month. We used that particular fund in our flexible income portfolio, and their exposure to R2030 as well as R186 bonds contributed meaningfully to performance, as well as their exposure to select property stocks such as SA Corporate and Growthpoint. Then the 91 Cautious Managed Fund, that particular fund also produced a return of 0.8% for the month. We used that particular fund in our stable and moderate growth portfolio, and their local bond exposure was the biggest contributor to performance, specifically their longer dated bonds and ILB exposure, and they also had very good stock selection on the offshore side. And then lastly, the BCI Fundsmith Equity Feeder Fund, that particular fund produced a return of 2.4% for the month, and that's an extremely good return considering that global equity markets was down more than 4% in rand terms for the month. We used that particular fund in our flexible growth portfolio, and they had very good stock selection, with their top 3 contributors to performance being Estee Lauder, Novo Nordisk, and Stryker. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again in February for our next DFM Monthly Bulletin. Bye for now.
INN8 is a registered trademark of Stanlib Wealth Management Pty Limited, an authorized financial services provider.